Hello, hello. Thank you for joining. And once again, this is the Swagger Swerve Show with Jeff Antonio. You could practically call it the Jeff Antonio Show. And today, we have a very special guest coming all the way from New York to Los Angeles. Our very special guest, Mr. Caleb Hawley. How you doing, Caleb?
I'm doing great.
Man, it's an honor and a privilege to have you on the show, and I just want to say thank you so much for coming over.
I'm glad to be here in LA.
Yeah, starting off, I just wanted to say that I'm always looking for new music to kind of inspire me. It's kind of one of those things, and you hear record label people say it sometimes. It's like, well, I don't know what I'm looking for, but I know when I see it. And, sometimes I've had that said to me over the years, and it's just like, well, what does that mean?
Yeah.
But it's kind of the same thing when I'm looking for new music. I don't know what I'm looking for. I just know when I hear it and it's banging, it's like, dude. And I have a Spotify playlist that shows me all the new releases, and I heard A Minute of Your Love about a month ago, and I was immediately stopped in my tracks. I said, who is that? And I looked it up, and there you go.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm glad you heard that one, and I'm glad you picked that one actually, because that is a song that I'm really happy with, and it's going to be on an album I'm releasing next month. But it's actually probably the song that I dig the most on that album as well. So I'm glad that you liked it.
I immediately connected to it. Excuse me. I like the beat. I like the vocals. I like the production. I mean,
yeah.
When I listen to a track like that, I think, how did he start that song? How did you start that song?
I can tell you exactly how I started that song. I remember we were just talking a minute ago a little bit about Mexico. I actually went on I set up a little writing retreat for myself in this place called San Cristobal de las Casas in Chiapas, Mexico. And I find that, if you sit down and try to, nothing's gonna happen if you don't sit down and try. So I set aside this time, and this was the very first morning. I was probably actually procrastinating. I was, should have been like writing, but a headline came up on my computer, and it said self-control is overrated, and I saw that line, and I was like, I like that. I like that idea because. Because it makes me feel good about myself because I have trouble with self-control. So let's say it's overrated, So so that was just right away. I had that, and then I think I wrote self-control is overrated, and then I wrote another line that said got something to say, go on and say it, and then I stood up and I looked over at the wall and I go, self-control is overrated, got something to say, go on and say it. And it just came out like that quick, and and that's sometimes how it goes. And then of course, that's that moment, that's that like bulb of inspiration, and then which we all get, everyone gets, even people that don't make music. They might just be walking down and maybe they have this, I don't know, a melody in their head, but then it's us as songwriters, we have to then expand on that and take our time and choose to spend our time like working that out, and right. So when I had that melody, which I thought was kind of unique, I thought the way it hops around, I thought it was catchy but also unique, which is definitely, I feel like, something I aim for because there's something I aim for, and and I had the chorus pretty quick. And the verse I had to rewrite many, many times. It was kind of like this fast, it's kind of like it has a fast rhythmic thing, and I don't know, it almost felt like a little like Destiny's Childish to me.
Right.
And I was trying to make it like not be as Destiny's Childish. So I don't know. That was the verses were the parts that took the longest. So I started writing that song in January of 2018 in Mexico, and then I finished it in, I don't know, probably September, But I mean, It's not like I probably went months without working on it, and then I came back to it, or whatever. But
that's awesome. So is it something that normally starts with a chorus, or it could start any way?
Well, that's what's funny is like at that point I didn't know that was gonna be the chorus. I think with that song in particular, I probably figured that with that song I may have thought this is the chorus because I felt right away like it was strong and unique. But oftentimes, like, there's so many different ways to write songs, and it depends on which approach. But with that particular one, it was just like, when I took that melody, I kind of wanted to have some Latin kind of vibe to it.
It does.
Like, yeah. And so I just, all I had, I traveled with like very limited setup. So I just like hit my guitar, hit different things for just different drum samples, and then programmed a beat, and then, kind of made some chords with it. And then once I had like a progression, then I just, oftentimes once I get a progression, I'll just sit with it and sing a bunch of things until something comes strong. So I think the next part that came up with was which ended up being the pre-chorus, which is, do you ever think about what it like to be second best? And the reason why I made something like that, the pre-chorus, is because everything else is so rhythmic and fast that I just needed
contrast.
I needed a spot that was just dun, 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 dun,
instead of the syncopated. Yeah.
Yeah. Huh. So it's like that's there's essentially 4 sections to that song, and then there's the bridge, which goes a minute, a minute, a minute, a minute, a minute,
a minute, a minute. You put in the harmony.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and actually, what's funny about I don't know if it's a good or a bad thing, but I say minute in that song. I counted one time for this random fact that I was trying to figure out, and I think I say the word minute like 63 times in 2 minutes. In 2 minutes I say the word minute 63 times. Wow. That's once every 2 seconds. That's I'm like, I don't know if that's good or bad, but
might be a Guinness World Record.
Yeah, I don't know. So I need to get a watch company or something to pick up that song.
Hey, there you go. Endorsement. Mm-hmm. That's cool. That's I find that very interesting. So it just starts off with kind of a chorus, and then you throw a beat behind it, and then you do a little bit of contrast for the bridge.
Yeah, and that whole time, I have to say, that song was sort of unique because the whole time I was writing it, I was having a hard time remembering where it was coming, like how it was emotionally connected to me, because I honestly felt there was a piece of it. There's oftentimes this happens with songs for me. There's a piece of it that I'm connected to personally, and there's a piece that I might not be. And honestly, I felt like the verses, I felt like I was taking on the part of a woman. I felt like a woman when I was writing it, because I kept on trying to be like, because I was using classic language that might be like, I think I had heard this song by The Weeknd that was talking about his side bitch or whatever, and I was like, and so I was thinking about being how someone wouldn't want to be a side piece, like it wouldn't feel good to be. It would never feel as good to be the second person, and so, but for some reason, I felt like when I was writing from that perspective that the verses, I really did feel like I was writing it from a feminine perspective, and that whole time I think that's why that part was the most challenging for me, is because I kept on being like, "Ow, am I saying like, should I act like this is sung from a different person, or should I just keep on singing it like it's me, like first person or third person or whatever?" You know? Yeah. So I mean, I fortunately have never been. I don't know, at least I hope not.
The
second version. So, that aspect of it was, but I can relate to not feeling, I think anyone can relate, like feeling like, not feeling like they are given enough attention in anything, whether it be your relationship, whether it be your job, your passion, whatever, whatever you're pursuing. Sometimes if you don't feel like you're getting the love back, there's a way that you can kind of connect to that feeling. So
right.
So yeah.
No, that completely makes sense, man.
Yeah.
The song is even deeper than I thought. Hey, so when and where did your music journey start? Where you had that aha moment where it's like, you know what, I'm gonna do this.
Yeah, you know what? I always think back. Literally, lately, I feel like I've been thinking back to 6th grade, and maybe it was either summer of 6th or 7th grade, and I had my whole childhood. I was obsessed with baseball. Like, loved baseball. I was like, I want to play for the Twins one day, and and then I remember some kid telling me, this is kind of funny, that a 7th grader, he was like, we were like having a baseball game, and he was like, "You don't care, do you?" And I was like, and I realized that like all my passion had been transferred, because in 6th grade I started playing guitar.
Yeah.
I've been transferred from baseball to music, and I think that was a big moment. And I mean, maybe in that moment I wasn't like, like, oh, music is what I want to do necessarily, but if I still remember. Yeah, but if I still remember that interaction 20 years later, like it obviously, it just, I would say that it kind of symbolizes the time period of when I was really kind of changing that, and then it never changed since then. I've never had anything, I've gotten into doing video, making film, but everything that I've done is to serve the music and this dream that I've essentially been chasing since for a long time. I would say, like, the dream, I didn't really know exactly what I wanted to do with music, at first, but once I figured that out, I've been working on that for, I don't know, a decade or so.
That's awesome. And so, I mean, you just start off kind of playing in bands or making recordings. What did you initially do?
Well, when I started, it was all guitar was what I loved, and I didn't think of myself as a singer, honestly, until, I mean, I would just sing as a means because people didn't want to have an instrumental band, but what I cared about was guitar, and so yeah, so I would just kind of found friends to jam with in high school, and got into like jazz band, and then got like pretty heavy into trying to learn jazz. I just never got good at it. I tried so hard. It's really hard.
Yeah, jazz is hard.
Yeah. It's like, but I think, yeah. So then but I would say a big influence for me was my family. We always went to folk festivals as our family vacation. And that was always about, like, folk music is always, that term is used very loosely because it's like, there's all sorts of stuff like that might play a folk festival. It's not like just like Peter, Paul, and Mary or whatever.
Right.
But but I feel like the essence of singer-songwriter and folk music is lyrics. Like, lyrics are very important in that genre, and so that I feel like that had really rubbed off on me in a way, because that's always been an important aspect. While I was also so interested in the instrumental, like the guitar part, I was always being influenced by songs in that way.
And lyrics.
Yeah.
And the full composition.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you say, when you started off, you weren't necessarily thinking of being a singer. How did you get that soulful voice, man? How did that develop?
Honestly, when I think a voice is kind of like, oftentimes a voice is kind of formed by impersonating people that you love, and then mixing that with, hopefully, eventually, your own artistry, and like finding your own voice. But also, like, everyone has their own voice, kind of, no matter what. We all talk, sometimes you meet someone who has a similar voice, but like, we all just have certain timbres. So I think I learned to sing literally just by listening to, like, I feel like my first big vocal influence was this guy named Martin Sexton, and never was a super well known. Like, I would say he was kind of a musician's musician. Like I remember John Mayer was a huge fan of Martin Sexton. Like, lots of people were big fans of him, but he never had like a hit, so he was never like a massive name or whatever. But he has an incredible soulful voice. And then I went through like a D'Angelo phase, which kind of, I think that helped me be able to do like vocal runs.
Yeah.
Because it's just like when you're singing along in the car, and then like,
oh, definitely.
That's practice.
Definitely.
So that's all, I think that's all that it came from. I have almost zero. I've taken like 2 vocal lessons.
Wow.
Ever, and I kind of keep it that way on purpose because I like having aspects of music that are untrained, because it keeps me from thinking too much about it.
Right. It's just natural. It's just what is. You're not thinking too much about technique.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
You're just being you.
Yeah. And yeah, I think that helps. That's one of my issues with school, like music school, I guess, is that like I said earlier, how guitar was my passion, but it's like I felt like as hard as I tried, I was never able to like just let it flow for me. It was always so mental.
Mm-hmm.
And it still probably is, 'cause
right.
once you learn all these scales or whatever, you want to use them. I mean, in a certain way, it gives you more information. Like,
right.
As a vocalist, I know that I am limited in a lot of ways. Like, when I hear what I consider like a legit, like real vocalist, I'm like I can't do all those things that they can do because that's their like core instrument that they've really worked. I don't have a massive, expansive amount of licks or whatever that I can do, but I don't know. I like it that way.
Well, you do great. I like what I'm hearing. And speaking of the voice, your cover of "You're Still the One." I mean, how you do that, man? I mean, the song, popular song by Shania Twain, and but your version of it is you. So that's another question I want to ask you: is how you take a song and then make it yours, because you made it yours.
Yeah, well, that was with the help of my friend Spencer Stewart. He's a producer, now living in LA. He goes by Doxa, and so far I'm loving this because the 2 songs you picked, this song was also done in San Cristobal de las Casas, which I was only there for a week. So, but I actually was still the one. I was making this 22-minute sex tape, and it was like 5 slow jams, and it was all super calculated. Like,
yeah, man.
Like I found I was like looking at this study, and it said like the average, I don't know, sexual experience is 22 minutes. Last 22 minutes, and it's I can't remember the breakdown. A certain amount of. No, I'm sorry. It was 19 minutes. Uh-huh. I added 3 minutes at the end just for cuddling, but it was like I can't remember the breakdown of it all. But so I was like, I'm gonna make a 22-minute on the dot sex tape, but it was while I was in Mexico, and I was supposed to be writing like my own stuff.
Yeah.
And this was kind of a procrastination technique, and so we started making this, and Still the One was on the last night. I was like, I need one more song to make it to 22 minutes.
Right.
And I had 2 originals, 2 covers, and I was like, I was talking with my friend Spencer. I was like, what can we do? And then somehow we ended up coming up with Still the One. And I recorded, I was like really tired. My flight was leaving early, and I was like, I'll just give this a shot. And I like just made a guitar, and then I made the vocal, and then I sent that to Spencer, and then he produced around the guitar and vocals, and made a beautiful track.
Wow.
And yeah, yeah,
Wow.
I loved it from the beginning. When he sent it back to me, I was super stoked.
So he put on the beat after your guitar and vocal?
He put on the beat. Yeah, he put everything around the beat and vocal, and then I think when I got home, I changed a couple of lines here and there.
Yeah.
But that was like my part of that recording was probably done in like an hour, and I'm talking like by an hour, I mean like learning the song and everything. Like I knew the song, of course, everyone knows the song, but I had never played it before.
Yeah.
You know, I was like, I literally like played the guitar. The way I recorded that song, maybe this is going to make it, this is going to be like pulling the curtain and sound lame, but I literally just played the guitar to the track in my headphones.
Yeah.
And then I like pulled up the lyrics on the internet, and then I just like,
You did
just
line by line?
saying the line by line three times, and that's how it was done. You know, it was done very
awesome.
fast.
That is awesome.
Yeah,
So you play to a click, and you're probably recording in like Logic or something?
Pro Tools.
Pro
But
Tools.
but in this case, I mean, I technically played to a click, but like I literally played because I didn't know the form, and it was like I said, I was doing it all so fast.
Yeah.
That I was like, I didn't even take time to map out the form. I just like played guitar to Shania Twain's version, and then I muted Shania Twain's version and sang my part.
Brilliant.
And said it's better.
Brilliant.
Well, it was just a way of doing things fast.
It's
you know?
a way of getting it done.
Yeah.
So that's actually a great idea. So, so you have the track in there, and so you've got the template, and you just add your tracks on top, take hers out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the thing is,
but
like,
of course, you still did it your own way. But it's
Yeah.
But then you're not really having to learn that much. You just jump into it.
it definitely made it easier. Yeah. You know, it definitely made it easier because that was all done, like I said, fast in January, and then I had to play a show on Valentine's Day in February where we were playing all the songs from Sex Tape, and I had to practice it like a good amount because I didn't actually really learn the song.
Yeah, you just recorded it.
Yeah, exactly.
Bits and pieces.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
So as far as like the guitar, because the guitar's got its own flavor, and you got these cool little licks in there and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's just something you just made up on the fly. You just
That's just you know, I would say the first 5 years of me doing music, I played solo, and I was like just playing me and an acoustic guitar. So yeah, I just I can't remember. I think I did like a couple of passes, just playing, you know, and then probably did some comping with the licks, and then, but it was just an acoustic guitar on into a SM7 microphone, nothing crazy, and then Spencer was the one who got he made it sound kind of like it was going through like an old amp. It almost sounds like an electric guitar in the recording, but it's just an acoustic into one microphone. Very, very basic, yeah.
Wow.
Spencer did a great job with that.
Impressive.
Yeah.
Impressive.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So getting back to getting your creative zone. So, because I've always wanted to do that. I've always wanted to take off and go to kind of like a place out of town and get into my zone. I mean, was that planned out? Did you have that as a process? I'm going to go to Mexico and get a hotel. I mean, how you do that?
Yeah. So that was, I feel Mexico in specific just fills me with energy. Like I can get off a plane in Mexico and I'm feeling good. So it's like, I was like, I'm going to pick this spot and go here, stay here for a week. And it's also nice because it's very affordable for, you know, us to go there. So it's like, so that I was like, rather than going to, I don't know, like Europe or something, that would be a lot more expensive. So yeah, I just went there, and yeah, I think it's important to set aside the time. Like I have a home. Well, I have a studio. It's a storage unit that I use in New York, and I love that space too. But there's something that's different about going away because
you're in a different element.
You're a different element for sure, but it's also just like when you don't know anyone, that actually helps because, and for me, I don't even speak the language, so it's like when, you know, like I might be able to go and say like, okay, I'm just gonna be on lockdown for the next week at home, but that's really hard because then if like a friend hits you up and you're feeling lonely, like you're gonna go hang out or whatever, you know, but there's no option, you know, so it's just like, and so I think that's really important. And I wanted to make it, you know, I would like to make it a yearly thing at least.
Oh,
I mean,
absolutely.
Like, yeah, because it's just, it doesn't have to, I don't have to go to Mexico. I could even just go, but just for me, getting out of the city, getting away from everything. Really.
Life's distractions.
Yeah, getting away from all the distraction and just, and making, making music. And yeah, I'd also love the idea of doing that with other people as well, but you know, since I also do a good amount of producing, like that's I just tend to do it on my own by myself.
I think it's brilliant. I have always wanted to do that. One time I saw this documentary on Peter Frampton, and you know, Behind the Music VH1, and he had been trying for a while. He'd played guitar for a couple of big name artists. I think he played for Bowie. They were childhood friends, but nothing really seemed to take off. You know, he was trying, one really, and he got into this big car accident, and I think he almost messed up his arm, something like that. And so he's like, you know what, to hell with this. I'm going to the Bahamas. I'm gonna get away and just take my guitar. I don't want to be around anybody. And he goes to the Bahamas and he writes "Baby, I Love Your Way." And all these other hits, and then he comes out with that double live album that just blew him up through the, you know, the stratosphere.
Wow, that's what blew him up, was a live album.
A live album. He had several studio albums, and his first live album,
wow,
78, 79, something like that, just boom. And yeah, I mean, you know, after that, the rest, as they say, was history. But that's the part of the documentary that really kind of hit me. It was like, you know, he was able to get out of his element, go to the Bahamas, and just veg out with a guitar.
It helps take the pressure off. You know, it helps. When you set aside time, it helps you. I mean, sure, you could feel the pressure because you'd be like, oh, I have to write something this week. But it doesn't. When you give yourself, you know, whatever, 7 days, that's a lot of time. And to just like, rather than just like 3 hours, like, you know, we're at home, we might, for me to actually sit down like and try to write for 3 hours, that's very rare, you know, and like, and so, but if I do, you know, like, it's going to be limited time, and just having that, allowing space for creativity to really blossom is I think really helpful. And yeah, I think, I mean, a lot of people do it, and that's probably why a lot of people go on the songwriting retreats, and sometimes people love to do it with other people. I find a lot of people, I don't know, I'd be curious how you usually write, because I haven't done a lot. I mean, I know people that only will co-write, and I haven't had I don't feel like yet I'm that great of a co-writer.
Right.
But do you tend to do co-writes? Do you write usually yourself?
I do both.
Okay.
I do both. I have songs that I'll write it start to finish, play most of the instruments, and then I have other songs where I get stuck, and I'll reach out to other artists and producers and be like, here's what I got. You know, what do you think? What can you add to it? And then all of a sudden it changes direction, and it's even better. You know? I think when I was younger, I was like, nah, man, I don't need anybody. I do this all myself. And I think the recent years, I just realized that sometimes collaboration is great. It just depends on the vibe. But for me personally, I think I need more collaboration than before. It's exciting. You get a different take on it. You get, you know, you go directions that you didn't think you were going to go. And the end product is something cool.
I think collaborating in a way, I don't know, like if I'm sending stuff back and forth, that can work. I've found it difficult, like if we're in the same room.
Yeah. I'm the
I don't
same
know.
way.
My mind just, it's like my mind just
It's
literally,
distracting.
yeah, I'm so, like literally what my mind does, it just goes in a circular thought of, it literally just says, think of something, think of something, think of something, think of something, think of something. So therefore, I'm thinking of nothing. You know, it's like, so it's just, I really, even with friends, even with friends that are, that I really respect as songwriters, and you'd think like I'd be super comfortable with them and wouldn't have any. It's been, it's just been a struggle, and I want to be better at it because I feel like what you just said, you know, taking songs in different directions, also learning like when you learn, oh wow, that's a new way to think it, then you can apply it to how you write.
Yeah. There's always some technique you never thought of, or there's always something you're like, I never would have thought of that, you know?
Yeah.
But I'm with you too. Sometimes I like to be on lockdown by myself because I got my way. You know, it just depends on the song. And some songs you want to, you know, get in that collaborative zone. And some songs like, look, I want what I want, what I want, what I want. You know, and I'm not saying you're wrong, but I'm right. So, you know, it's just knowing your strengths and weaknesses. Like for me, I love to record the tracks, but you know, you ask me to mix, and I'm gonna laugh at you. You know, I'm not a good mixer. I think I'm a decent producer, but mixing is just it's an art form within itself, and I know some people that can do it all, but I can't mix to save my life. Yeah,
I think I'm like I'm a poser mixer. Like,
really?
well, the reason why is because like I do it. Part of the reason why I do all the things is simply just a financially thing. It has come from out of financial things. Like I'm like, oh man, I can't pay for this time around, so I better learn how to do it.
Right.
You know, but with mixing, it's so true. It really is like very, very difficult. And if I had unlimited budget or whatever, a huge budget, I would always send it to someone for also just the reason of getting, when you do it all, like you can really get lost. Like you can really.
Exactly.
Yeah.
See, that's the part I like. It's like, hey, you know what? You handle it. I laid down the tracks, you know, here's a template of kind of where I'm looking to go and just send it off, you know? Yeah.
But it's also like, do you feel like when you produce, do you feel like you also kind of mix as you go?
I do kind of, you know, I've gotten better at that. And then sometimes it just depends. Every track is different. It can kind of be this creative mess. And then sometimes the track was mixed pretty decent before it even got to the mixer. So just really depends.
Do you prefer do you use Pro Tools or Logic?
Logic.
Cool.
Yeah, that's my joint. I never really tried Pro Tools, but you like Pro Tools?
Well, just only because it's what I did
Yeah.
from the start. You know, it's like I always think whatever you can work fastest and like whatever, you know, makes your creative process be the most fluid, you know, like that's because I've tried before to work in Logic or something, and because I'm not as fluent in it, it's just like it goes. I just move so slow.
It'll stifle your creativity. You
Yeah.
don't know what buttons what. You don't know the controls. Yeah. I mean that would hold you back.
Yeah.
Tell me about your feeling on playing live versus the studio. Which do you prefer and why?
That's interesting because I'm still definitely will say live, but it's been the studio has been catching up a little bit, because when you really get in that zone and you're the creative zone, it's like that's like a massive high, you know, that's like an amazing place to be if you're ever doing anything that you just have forgotten to eat, like, you know, you're in a good place, or at least for me, because I'm very food driven. So it's like, but live, I mean, was the reason I ever started writing songs in the first place. I wanted a way to perform. That's all. Like I performed I had my first taste of performance at a 6th grade talent show, and that was just like
That was it.
yeah. I mean, it was like the best drug ever, and I've been chasing that high ever since. And so like playing live is the ultimate, and it's kind of I'm in a weird spot because I used to play, especially when I played solo. I'd play like 150 shows a year. Like that was my
Wow.
like I was touring, all this stuff, and but the thing is I would play. It was quantity over quality.
Yeah.
You know, I was playing a lot of shitty shows, and so now I've been, I've slowed down a lot with the amount of shows and tried to make them, just stronger shows, and it's gradually just kind of gotten less and less, and I'm just like, it's kind of weird. I'm in this weird transitional thing because I decided that I wanted to just do less playing live so that I could just focus on more recordings. But at the end of the day, like that, like performance, like feeds my soul more than anything.
Right.
So it's something I've really been missing,
Oh, for sure. For
Yeah.
sure. When you do one, you kind of want to do the other. And, but I'm with you too, I used to play a lot of shows, and over time it's just like, I want to do it right, maybe less shows. So I think that's a natural progression.
Where are you at right now? Are you playing live much, or?
I haven't played live probably in about a good year or so, but when I do it, I just go off, man. I just, I just go nuts, man. Cause I think it's all this pent up energy. It's like,
Yeah.
I haven't been out there in a while. So, but yeah, there's definitely a duality to it. And you're right. If you're doing something and you're so into it, you forget to eat, that you're doing something that you really love, cause you're just locked in this zone. And, I definitely know what that feels like, man, especially, and then you're done, or maybe you got the first initial rough mix and you're playing it back, and you're almost hearing it like it's not you. You're hearing it as like, who did that? I did that.
Oh,
I did that.
Yeah.
No way.
That's
I didn't do that.
My favorite is like, so it's totally true. Yeah, you'll be when you get in the zone with something, and like sometimes I'm like, I don't even know if this is good. I don't know, it might suck, whatever. And then I'll usually at the end of it, I'll bounce it, and so I can listen to it later. But then maybe I'll go and do something, and I'll listen to it, 4 hours later, and at that point I'll have basically forgotten, forgotten it, and then you listen back, and when it's good, it's just like, wow, it does feel like that. It's like, wow, that was me.
That's
Shit,
me.
how did, like, I actually sat down for a few hours and made that. How did that happen? And that's why it's just so important. Inspiration happens, but it has to find you working. It's Picasso, but it's like, you sit down and you got to just set aside the time to make it happen.
You just got to capture it in that moment.
Yeah.
How do you find the right people to collaborate with? And by that, I mean not just songs, but like production, mixing, other musicians to play live with. How do you find people that you're going to click with?
I feel like that is often like a network. It's like I meet one person, introduce me to the next. Like I can trace it all back to like, like anyone that I play with in a band. It's like, oh, I was playing with the drummer. I had to get a new drummer, and then I had to get a new keyboard player, and my drummer recommended me this person. It's like, and I like doing it that way too, because then it's nice when, someone else. It's nice when there's some sort of camaraderie, like they know each other in some way. Like I feel like if you brought a whole band together that just didn't know each other at all, it would just take some time. It'd
take time to gel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, I feel very. There's a particular mixer named Steve K in LA that I'm like obsessed with. I just think he's amazing. Everything he's ever done for me, I love. So it's like, when you find something like that, then it's like, I don't often try out, new mixers, or unless I'm just either that or I'll just mix it myself. But like, But then with producing, yeah, I've worked a bit with this guy I've been talking about a little that goes by Doxa, and if I hear a certain kind of production or something that I like, I'll reach out to someone and see if they'd be interested in trying to do some collaboration if I have a song in mind for them or something. Right.
Is that how you found the mixer?
Actually, yeah. The way I found the mixer is he mixed. This is going years back when I was in a more of a stylistic of kind of like more old school, like I guess like kind of like a Leon Bridges kind of vibe.
Oh, nice.
If you go back like 2 albums or whatever, I mean, I guess it'd be like 5 years. I have a whole like Leon Bridges type vibe, and
that's a good vibe.
Yeah, it is a good vibe. But I found this mixer because I wanted at that time I was like I knew this. I was going for that old school vibe, and I found Fits and the Tantrums.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
They're an LA band.
Oh, yeah.
And you know, also was like checking out like Amy Winehouse, CeeLo, whatever, anyone that was doing this kind of like old school new thing. And I was looking at the mixers and like, and I came across this dude Steve K, and I just hit him up on Twitter, you know. And I was like, he did Fits in the Tantrums, and I was like, wow, man, this is the style I'm going for. I love what you're doing. Like, and he hit me back, but what I didn't realize at that time is like how, you know, he can do so much more than just that style.
He could do a lot.
Yeah, because I mean, I'm not making music like that anymore, but he still does great stuff. I know that there's a better, like, you know, a lot of people's goal is happiness. You know, they're trying to find. They're like, I just want you to be happy. You know, like then that's a very common thing. But the thing is all my songs, all my best songs usually come from a place of sadness or yearning, you know? And I don't write I usually don't write a good song when I'm on cloud nine. Like I mean, I'm not even, it's not even that I'm not even really that inspired to write. Like, I feel like I oftentimes hold on to pain because it's the tool that allows me to write. I don't know. It's like when I'm sitting in that pain, that's where I can write. And that's the only reason why I, you know, like I can like shy away from self-help podcasts and stuff because or just like when I do listen to them and I hear the advice, I'm like, yeah, I gotta do that, but I don't know that I want to be there yet, you know, because
right.
And it may seem, I don't know. This is the debate that's going through my mind, you know, many times a day.
I hear you, man. It's a daily thing, and no, I really respect your answer. You know, I got my methods too, man, and you know, it's sometimes you're there, sometimes you're not there. One thing I do sometimes is if I'm feeling, I wouldn't say out of sorts, but just kind of like not quite with it, I'll journal, and that'll pull me in. You ever try that?
You know, I don't journal that much actually, but I know it's one of those things that I'm like, I need to do. I need to journal.
Well,
you know,
it just depends on you, and you know, each artist is their own thing. But for me, sometimes it's just it pulls me, not all the time, but it can. And but speaking of which, what is your daily routine? I mean, what's your typical day in the life?
Yeah. So like, right now while I'm in LA, it's kind of weird because it's just like it's not home. But in general, when I'm home, I have a very, like, to a T, a very scheduled morning. Like, I get up, I walk my dog, I usually go for a run with my wife, and then we have breakfast, we talk, we drink coffee and talk, and that because we get up pretty early, so that takes us till around like 9:30, And that's the one consistent, I'd say. Like
That's great.
That's pretty much always there, you know? And then everything else I want to say is like I'll go through phases where I'm like and if I in a perfect world I'd be like the next hour would be just writing. And might involve, you know, something like journaling, you know, like
right.
just writing something so you don't have to have so much pressure on every single moment that you write. You want to, you know,
You're just putting it out there.
Yeah. But I often don't. I often, you know, get overwhelmed with just random whatever, because it's like while I'm also creative as what I do, there's also a whole business side to it, and I'm always keeping up on that and making sure, you know, that then there's life things. There's so much shit.
So much life things, aren't there?
Yeah, I know.
Oh,
so
man.
it's funny just to add something that takes, even like I also meditate. I try to meditate 10 minutes a day, and even just adding it sometimes 10 minutes. It's like, why shouldn't that, you know, I have this whole morning routine, but then it's like the more things you add to it, all of a sudden it's like, oh shit, it's one. And then say I have a gig or something, you know.
Yeah.
You know, it's time is weird. It's like, It feels like we have a lot of it, but it can really get eaten fast.
It burns fast, man. It really does. But yeah, I've been wanting to get more into the meditation. You find that helps clear your head?
It does, yeah. It's super difficult for me. Like I'm no master at all, you know, by all means. Like it's just to even find a moment in those 10 minutes of meditation, like that my mind isn't, because, you know, it's like you're constantly, it's trying to attempt to slow down your brain or just stop all the distractions, and that's it's really difficult. Even if I can successfully do that for like 10 seconds in a 10-minute meditation, like that's good.
Yeah.
You know, so so it's definitely a practice, and it's something that I do think helps. Like, you know, by the end of those 10 minutes, like I usually feel like in a better zone, especially when I do write after that, it feels a lot better. You know, it's like I don't know.
You get a lot of the stuff out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're kin in that regard, man, because I'm like you. Like, my brain is really hyper. Like, and sometimes I feel like I'm the only one, but it's just like, I mean, and people don't necessarily see it, but yeah, internally it's like, man, his thoughts, like, slow them down. I don't know why it's so hyper, but it just is.
Did you drink coffee?
You know, it is what it is.
Yeah. No, totally.
Yeah. So Caleb, tell me, what's next on the horizon?
So I'm putting out this full album on, I'm going to say April 12th, April 15th. It's one of those days. And it's called Sad People. And Sad People is the title track. And I feel like a lot of the songs are around the topic of depression and mental illness, and which I've dealt with a lot, and so my original intention of it was to kind of write a like an album that depressed people could dance to, essentially.
Right.
And I wouldn't say that that was my original kind of intention. It's, you know, it all has, you know, basically, like, you know how you can sometimes listen to a song and it can feel very up tempo, and then all of a sudden you're like, wait, those lyrics, those are kind of dark, you know? And and that's, I would say that it's lyrically very dark. But you know, it's not one of those that you will light candles, and which I love these kind of these albums too, but it's not one of these where you're like gonna light candles and just like chill, you know, because there's a lot of energy in it as well.
That's cool.
Yeah. So that's what's coming next month, and then after that, I'm doing one big release show in May in New York, and I'm debating on doing some other release shows in the fall, and then but the truth is like once you've like I'm kind of past the as far as like writing, I've already started writing new songs, so I'm thinking of I don't have a title for the album after that, but there's no need to talk about it because I gotta think about this one I'm about to release.
We're gonna get out the sad people first.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man. I'm looking forward to it. I've really liked what I've listened to so far. Like I previously mentioned, You're Still the One. I really like You and I, and as I've mentioned several times, A Minute of Your Love, man. Great tracks. I listen to a lot of Love, Drugs, and Decisions, and it's going to be in my rotation, man. Very great art, great artistry, man.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah. So tell us where we can find you online.
Every single platform I can think of. CALEBHAWLEY. If you basically put that into anything, you'll find my music or whatever, whatever social platform.
Awesome. Well, Caleb, It's been an honor and a privilege having you on the show. I want to say thank you so much for being on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This is fun.
Oh, anytime, man. Anytime you want to come back. Once again, for the audience listening, this is Caleb Hawley. And, give him a listen if you haven't done so already. It's really great music and very powerful stuff. And to everybody out there listening, make sure you keep up the swagger and the swerve. And until next time, keep up the hustle. Thank you.